Hey guys, I'm Jody, and today we're taking a look at Transformers deck building game from Renegade Game Studios. This plays 1 to 5 players, and this has cooperative mode and a competitive mode. And in this game, you are going to be choosing an Autobot to play, and you will be able to transform between different modes throughout the game, and you're trying to defeat some Decepticons. So we're going to take a brief overview of kind of how to play, and then I'll come back up and give you my thoughts. The Transformers deck building game can be played competitively, cooperatively, or solo. This game puts you in control of your favorite Autobots as they seek allies, relics, and sites to help them wage the battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons and thwart their evil schemes. Get ready to roll out! Every player starts with 10 card starting deck, which consists of a patrol, reserves, firepower, fix, and 6 courage cards. Each player decides what Autobot they want to play as and takes the corresponding card and standee. There are several different cards that make up the main deck. You have robots, you have the Autobots, and the Decepticons. These you're obviously trying to defeat, and these will be good for you. And then there's other ones that provide special abilities, allies, sites, and technology. And then throughout the game, you'll have to defeat 3 Decepticon bosses. There's also other cards you can play with if you would decide to. There are Decepticon schemes and then cooperative schemes. These depends on if you're playing competitive mode or cooperative mode. These also you can play with relics, which will make the game a little bit harder. Then throughout the game, you're going to be having encounters, which are going to give you some ambushes and confrontations with the bosses. Not so good stuff. Then these are cards that you can always buy, the Transformer rollout cards, and damage you'll be collecting throughout the game. We're going to take a brief look at how to play, and we're going to take a look at specifically the cooperative mode. So there are multiple things you can do on your turn. One of them is you can transform if you'd like, but that costs Energon, and this is Energon in the game. But to start, you're going to start in the Alt mode, and this symbol right here shows you how much movement you can have. So it makes sense that the car version can move more than this. This is more for battling. So this gives you 2 movement. And then let's say these are the first 5 cards we drew. So some of these cards are also going to give you movement or buying power, or I should say just power in general, because power can help you buy cards or also battle bosses and Decepticons. And this symbol right here is a target, so basically you can target something 1 card away. And this over here also means movement. Some other things you can do besides playing a card to generate power and moving ability and also transforming, there are other things you can do. So with your movement, you can move your Autobot throughout the matrix, depending on how much movement you have. And then also you can use movement to search. Searching costs 1 movement, and you would flip the card over for where your Autobot is. You can also buy or battle cards within the range of your Autobot. So as mentioned before, this little target symbol means your range. So if I had this card, I could potentially buy a card within range of 1 of my Autobots. Or you can battle as well. Another thing you can do is activate any Energon abilities. Some cards might provide you Energon abilities on the bottom of the card, or some other various ways. There might be some sites and some things that you can do as well. And then also you can confront a Decepticon boss, which may show up in the matrix when you flip over. So let's do a brief example of a turn. So we decided that this player has a total of 5 power, so 2, 3, 4, 5, and a total of 3 movement, 1 being from this card here, and also from their Bumblebee Autobot. Alright, so they are currently on this ally card, which costs 2. And this has an ongoing effect, move 1 during your turn. So this player definitely wants to buy this for 2, so that means they have 3 spending power left. An ally card does not go to your discard pile, it actually goes out in your play area to be used. So this is an ongoing benefit, so you can get one of these tokens and kind of put this out here to remind you it's an ongoing ability. Alright, so we still have 3 movement. Okay, so let's do movement 1, movement 2, and for the 3rd movement point or movement action we're going to do is we're actually going to search, which costs 1 movement like I just said. So now this Bumblebee is available to buy. Now everybody knows what this card is, and it happens to be a really good card. Now The other thing, there is one card that this player drew, and it says, if you control 3 or fewer Energon, gain 1 Energon. So this player happens to only have 2. So they have fewer than 3, so they get to take another Energon. When you search, you might come across some Decepticons or bosses. Sometimes if you're there, you might have to draw an encounter card and resolve the ambush text. The bottom text down here deals with confrontations. Whenever battling adversaries, there are multiple steps you need to go through to complete a battle, and it's important to note that there are special confrontation steps if the adversary is a boss, and each player has a player aid that helps you guide you through the battle process. In general, you'll be using power that you have from your cards or other special abilities, some of them might be Energon abilities, to try to defeat adversaries, and you have to be within range as well. In cooperative modes, your teammates may assist you in battling any adversary, whether the active player controls any damage or not. Assisting in competitive games might be dependent on whether you have damage cards or not. In a cooperative mode, you can lose the game in a couple different ways. The game will end if any player controls 5 or more damage cards, or if a card needs to be added to the matrix and there aren't any in the matrix or in the main deck left to fill it up. And then you can win if you defeat all 3 bosses. If you are playing competitive mode, then the game will end if all 3 bosses have been defeated, or the main deck is empty when a card needs to be added to the matrix. And at that point, everyone would tally up their total victory points, and whoever has the most points would win. So let's go over my thoughts. So, 1, I always loved the concept of Transformers, and I like deck building games as well, so I was very excited about this one. So there are some good things about this game, in my opinion, and some not so good things about this game. So let's start with some of the things that I liked, okay? So first, I really liked the Matrix. I liked how, there's the grid of cards out there, and you're moving your Autobots around them, and then, you're taking your move actions, move points to, obviously move, but also flip the cards over. I've always liked that element of little mystery in games. There's a handful of games that, we have that are like that, and I love those. So not knowing what's under, what that card is until you flip it over, I like that type of stuff. So I really liked moving around the grid. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of this game. It's just that grid, that matrix mechanic where you're just kind of moving around. There's all these cards to discover. It's just kind of fun. You never know what you're gonna find. And then, of course, if you find a Decepticon or one of the bosses or something, then you got some bad stuff ahead. But so I really liked that part of the game. Now, for sure, this art is great. I love the cards. I love just looking at them, and all the Autobots looked really cool. Of course, I chose Bumblebee for my first game. So I think that cool art really kind of helps this game to be a little more fun. I also love that you can transform, so you have your basic Autobot that you're playing, but I love that you can transform modes. You just have to spend some Energon to transform. Obviously you have the car version where you can move around, and the other side is better for battling. So I thought that was really cool. Moving around the matrix and then also being able to transform back and forth with your Autobot. Now let's go over some things that not the greatest fan of. Okay, first I've got to start with the rulebook. The rulebook was probably, I hate to say it, but it was probably one of the worst rulebooks I've read. It's very little graphics, pictures, just a lot of text, and it was very convoluted in my opinion. I like lots of organization and structure, and that's one reason why I like reading rulebooks, because it's just all structured organization. But this rulebook felt so convoluted that it really affected my opinion of this game tremendously. One of the things being that you can play competitive mode or cooperative mode, but throughout the rules it's all kind of mixed in. I definitely feel like this rulebook could use a revamping, make it more clear, for rules when you play competitively and cooperatively. And just, more clear rules with, the confrontations and ambushing, just a lot of different things in this game. It really hindered the gameplay for me and the friends that I played with as well. So with that, the confrontation, because there's so many steps, and some of the steps are applicable if you're playing competitively or cooperatively, And it was just really difficult to figure out some of the rules for this. And frankly, there were some situations that weren't thought of in the rule book. So we had a card come up, and basically it didn't tell us everything that we needed to do, and there was zero explanation in the rule book. So we had to go look on forums. So it was just a little rough. Now, if I had to choose between playing competitively or cooperatively, I probably would pick cooperative. I liked that experience much better. I just struggled to see the fun and the assisting part for competitive games. For cooperative, sure, I'm going to assist you so we can try to beat this boss. But for the competitive game, it just wasn't as fun. I didn't like that. Obviously you can both get rewards, but it felt a little convoluted with the assisting as well in competitive mode. So if I had to pick one version, I would pick cooperative. I think that was much more fun for me. So to wrap it up, I am a little disappointed because I was really looking forward to this game for reasons I mentioned earlier. Now keep in mind, this is my subjective opinion. Now, some people might really love this game. And this is the thing, it's not a bad game. I just feel like the rules really need to be hashed out better and just more clear to make the experience better, because when you have to look up stuff and it's hard to figure out depending on which mode you're playing, that really deters from the game. If there is a much better rule book, I think this would be a much better experience. So as always, if this looks like a game you might be interested in through the overview and some of the things I mentioned may not be as much of an issue for you, definitely try this one out. Take a look at it. This is just my subjective opinion. So that wraps up my thoughts on Transformers deck building game. I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.